One of the things that I absolutely positively love about people with Asperger syndrome or high functioning autism is they tend to be very grounded emotionally, very stable emotionally. Yeah, I know. I know there are exceptions. I know that, Aspies who are, man, what happened to that guy? That's the way we approach it. But by and large, most people that I know that I have encountered who have Asperger syndrome, they seem to be very centered emotionally. That is to say, they're not the types who fly off the handle. And again, there are exceptions. All right, we've got 6 of these things. And by the way, if you have Asperger syndrome, personally, this is just my opinion, but you should be very grateful that you have, I hate to keep using the term superpowers, but you should be very grateful that you have these elements to your personality. Well, number one is this, and I think this is kind of important, but it is self-control. That is to say, a part of executive function that comes from the frontal lobe of our brain. That means that we don't sweat it. If we are faced with a difficult circumstance, typically we don't go to pieces, but we can think rationally. That's one of the hallmarks of Asperger syndrome is that capability to be rational, logical thinkers. So we think through it, we don't react, we respond, and we typically will come up with a game plan. And I saw a meme on one of the social media channels the other day. Can't remember which one it was, but it was 2 men standing in front of an elephant. And a bull elephant didn't seem to be happy at all with these guys standing there. And the caption said something that one of the guys was being trained on how to work with elephants, and the whole idea was don't show fear. One of the best ways to control somebody who is angry is don't reflect their anger, but just be calm and relaxed. And apparently that I'm not going to try this, by the way. I'm going to stay away from elephants. But if I'm ever out in the wild, taking a hike in, say, Indiana, and there's an elephant comes walking down the path, I may try this. But outside of that, no, I don't think so. But the idea was just stay calm and, just stare down the elephant because he's going to understand that you're not a threat. So he'll leave you alone. You don't go toward him, you don't go away from him, whatever. But I have noticed this when I'm taking my walks usually every day, about 2.5 hours. I go not 2.5 hours, but about 2.5 miles, takes me less than an hour. But on rare occasion, I will encounter a dog. And one thing that I learned from a friend who is an avid bicyclist is that when you see a dog, the thing to do is, depending on the dog, but the thing to do is to walk toward him. Don't show any fear at all. It's not always possible because sometimes they sneak up from behind. Then it's too late after they nip your heels. But I found that useful information sometimes. And if the dog is coming after you, just turn around. And usually what I will do is maybe take a step or two toward the dog and then just wait. And I got to say this as a disclaimer. I'm not an expert in dog psychology, so you do what you think is best. But that's what's worked for me. But the idea is self-control. That seems to be something that people with Asperger syndrome have, that other people have it in lesser amount. Again, that's part of executive function. Number 2 is they are socially aware. Now, you may say, I don't think so. Because if you have Asperger syndrome, one of the struggles that you have in your life is social challenges because, you just don't get along, How often have we talked about this? Or let me ask you, what's the longest you ever held a real job? Personally, 6 months. I'm talking about a conventional job, where you clock in, clock out. I don't even know if they still have those clocks or not. I assume they do. Punch cards, been so long since I've used one of them, they may not even be in existence. Could be you just swipe your card or something else. I don't know. But that type of job, longest I ever lasted was 6 months. That means all the other jobs I had were under 6 months. The reason wasn't that I'm incompetent. I know I'm a good worker because I started a business, hired myself. Nobody else wanted to. And we did fairly well, and I knew to treat my employees well. But the point is, socially aware, what am I talking about? How is that one of the strengths of being an Aspie? Well, we got to draw a distinction here. On the one hand, we talk about being socially aware, but on the other hand, when we talk about people skills, that's a totally different thing. We're not talking about the same thing. Oranges and apples, they're both fruit, but not the same fruit. So when we talk about people skills, that's something that people with Asperger syndrome really not very good at. Now, we can fake it sometimes. We can put on the mask and we can try really hard, but the mask always slips. So typically we don't get along in a group. We're just misunderstood. They kind of push us out because we're the oddball. We are the eccentric and they're the concentric. But what about socially aware? Well, the fact of the matter is, because we're odd, because we are eccentric rather than concentric, we are able to examine social situations from outside. We get a different perspective. The people inside get a very different perspective. They're thinking of the immediate, right now, what's happening and how is this going to affect my social standing in the future, and it's all about social climbing. Good analogy. You ever taken an airplane ride? I'm sure you probably have. Maybe a few of you have not. But I love flying in airplanes. I had a guy one time for a few dollars. He said he would take me and my grandkids up in an airplane. Man, I loved it. Little four-seater airplane, and we flew over the farmland, and man, it was absolutely beautiful. But that's a whole different thing from driving down the road in your car or standing on the ground. You get a totally different perspective. So I guess what I'm saying is, when I talk about socially aware with Aspies, we have the bird's eye view. We get the big picture. Other people, they don't get it. They get the close-up picture. They're on the ground. We're up in the air, flying over top of everyone else. No wonder they don't get along with us because, well, they say we're aloof. Well, I guess in a sense, maybe that's true. Not in the arrogant sense, but we are airborne. Is there another word for aloof that you can think of? Let me know. I can't think of it. Number 3 is limit conversations to substance. We are emotionally gifted in the sense that we don't get wrapped up in the emotions of a conversation. We all know about small talk. And by the way, I'm not good at it. To me, it's a little bit cumbersome, but I also understand there's this thing called etiquette. There's this thing called good manners. And so when people speak to me, as uncomfortable as it is, I've had to learn over the years. As a kid, this was impossible. Even into my teen years, next to impossible. But as I get older, I'm getting better. Still unpleasant, still uncomfortable. But I want to be nice to people. I want to be decent. I don't want to be eccentric on purpose just to annoy people. And if I can do that just as a kindness, why not? Why not be nice to people? So I go ahead and I have those small talk conversations, but the truth of the matter is, when it comes to having a conversation with somebody, you want to talk about something of substance. And again, that's the aerial view. That's the way that we are. So that is part of being emotionally gifted, is if you're going to have a conversation with an Aspie, with a person with autism or high-functioning autism, expect to have an in-depth relative conversation that actually means something. Now, if you want to have small talk, go ahead and talk. We'll listen. We may be looking for the door, trying to find an excuse to get away from you. It's not that we don't like other people, but we don't like the circumstance. I mean, it makes us very nervous and uneasy. But again, aerial, bird's eye view, yep, we got that when it comes to conversation. Well, we need to understand also the fact that we have a limited social circle, and this is number 4, that allows us to empower people. You can have so many friends that you don't have any friends. Some people say, I've got these different circles, different layers of friends. I got a lot of friends. I got a kind of a medium, not an inner circle, but a medium circle somewhere between that. This part of being concentric, I guess. And then on the inside, I've got my really, 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 really close friends. But that's probably true. But the problem is there's always that competition. How much time do you spend with the inner circle? How much with the outer circle? How much with those who are somewhere in between, kind of like the rings around Saturn, which one is the most important? With people with Asperger syndrome, typically, if you have friends at all, and I'm assuming you have at least one or two, maybe close family members, that's pretty much what you got. You got that inner circle and nothing else. But because of that, you are able to empower those people. Those people who are close to you, you understand them far better than anyone else does. At least that's the way it seems. And often they understand you better because you spend more time with them. But again, let's go back to the bird's eye view. People who are not in your inner circle, who otherwise would have been in your outer circle, if you were not autistic, well, those people you get that bird's eye view of. You're able to look at them and watch them and observe their behavior, much of what we talked about before. But you're able to do that from a different perspective, and that's one of the reasons they don't like you, is because you're brutally honest. And sometimes sad to say, we don't talk much. Most of us, some of us overtalk. But we don't talk much, but when we do talk, we're honest. People don't like honesty because, well, you tell the truth about them. If they're having a bad hair day, you may say, man, it's bad. What's wrong with your hair? Did you get caught in a rainstorm? Well, you're just being honest. You're just trying to help out, right? You say, man, you look like Boris Johnson. What happened to you? They get offended. And we don't mean to be offensive, but that's one of a zillion different examples we could use. But at least we are empowering them with honesty. They may not like it, but that's what we're doing. Number 5 is affective empathy. That is to say, we lack cognitive empathy, but we are excelling in affective empathy. So I like to use the analogy of a person who is blind, but still they excel in certain things because, well, it seems that their hearing is compensating their blindness, so they can hear sounds that other people cannot hear. I once knew an electrical engineer. How in the world did this guy do it? He was blind, but he could hear things that other people could not hear. He had a gift that other people did not have. People with Asperger syndrome, when it comes to empathy, we have a gift that other people don't have. Affective empathy. Now, what about that cognitive empathy? That is the ability to read body language, to read facial expressions. A lot of Aspies, at least virtually most of them that I know, seem to have a real limitation there. Personally, I don't think I've got that. I think if somebody's sad, I can recognize it. Somebody's happy, I think I can see it. Somebody mad, I pretty much pick up on that. Now maybe I'm missing the cues, but I don't think I have that like others. But when it comes to affective empathy, we excel in that. That is a good thing. That is one of the reasons that we have what I call an emotionally gifted personality, because when somebody is hurting, we hurt right along with them. Well, sometimes we get ourselves in trouble because somebody is pretending to be hurt, but because we don't have cognitive empathy, we don't see the fakeness in that, and they're doing it to take advantage of us. They see us as gullible, and they see us as naive, psychopaths. Narcissists will take advantage of us, so we got to be careful. But particularly, I don't know about you, you can tell me in the comments if this applies, but I find when I see somebody sitting alone, it just really bothers me. And I think that comes from past experience probably, coupled with the natural personality trait of being empathetic, affective empathy. And I remember once when I was a kid, there was this lady sitting alone in church, middle-aged lady, no idea who she was, and there was a row of boys. I was with the boys, probably, 8 years old. And they decided they were going to get up and leave because they didn't want to sit with this old lady. It's middle-aged, but to us she was old. And I really felt bad, about leaving this woman sitting all alone. She probably, in hindsight, she probably thought I was a little bit nuts, and I probably was. But she probably had wished that I had gotten up and left with the rest of them. But I wanted to stay with her because I didn't want her to feel lonely, even though she probably didn't feel lonely. She may have been an Aspie, who knows. But we do tend to have that affective empathy, at least I do, where we understand people who are alone. We understand what they're feeling. see somebody crying, well, I think that tugs on just about everybody's heartstrings. And a lot of people, especially young women who haven't learned better, will do that on purpose. They'll cry to manipulate people so they feel sorry for them. They're in an argument with somebody, say with her boyfriend, and other people are watching, then the girl starts to cry. Then everybody turns against her boyfriend for making her cry. We'll fall for that. As I get older, I'm pushing 70 years old. I've learned a few things over the years, and I've learned to catch on to that trick. But that's the way we are. Someone is feeling hurt, wounded, sad, whatever. We're right there for them. It's just like we're just attracted to that person so we can help them because, we felt that thing. Have you ever been alone? Maybe at school, in the classroom, maybe in the lunchroom, whatever, and you physically felt it like a knot in your belly. I mean, it was a physical problem. Had something inside just kind of knotted up, and it really didn't hurt, but it was an indication. It was a physical manifestation of your emotional hurt, your emotional injury. And so you associate that with other people who you see are alone. That is a part of our personality trait that is, I think, a gift. Do you think that's a gift? I do. If you disagree, let me know. If you do agree, let me know. Just say, I agree or something in the comment section. Number 6 is what I call self-empowerment. One thing that Aspies learned early on is that if you are going to be empowered, you are going to have to empower yourself because by and large, other people, as we say often, misdiagnose you. They will not say, let me frame it in this context. First 65 years of my life, I never had anybody say, Ken, I think I know what your problem is. You're autistic. Nobody ever said that. Nobody. I've had people say, what your problem is? No, they may not have said it. They may not have expressed it literally, but they said it implicitly. Not explicitly, but implicitly. But they would say, you're aloof, or you're shy, or you're arrogant, or you're, your mind is wandering. You're not focused, or you lack emotions. You have this poker face personality. They say all these things, misdiagnosis. And it's all an excuse to dislike you because they do dislike you because you're weird. You're eccentric and they're concentric. But nobody ever said, Ken, I think your problem is you're autistic. No one said that until I was 65. And I went to a therapist to be evaluated. And then she didn't say it was a problem. She just said, after several days of sessions, she drew the conclusion, you got a problem with, or not a problem, but you have Asperger syndrome, high-functioning autism, that you are autistic. It's very obvious. You check nearly every box with maybe one or two exceptions. I mean, I was chin deep in this, apparently, from her evaluation. So we are self-empowered because we have no choice. That's the way it seems to me. If we are going to rely on others, we're going to rely on people who misdiagnose us, who think that we're lazy, or think that we are aloof, or think that we're complacent, just don't care. They have all these ways of summing up our personalities, and they miss it every single time because they don't understand who we are. So how do you rely on people like that? It's virtually impossible. So who are you going to rely on? Well, you got to rely on somebody who understands you, and the only person who understands you is you. Or at least you understand yourself better than everyone else. And once you understand that you have autism, then other people maybe begin to understand as well, but there's a lot of holdouts who say, that's just an excuse. Or they say, autism, I don't even believe that exists. I mean, there are people out there who actually say that. No one's ever said that to me, but they do sometimes say it. Now, you see there are 2 rectangles on the screen. Let's keep on talking. Keep the conversation going if you want. Keep hanging out. All you got to do is click on one of those 2 rectangles and the conversation will continue. But if not, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you all next time.